Hello, this one's going to be an interesting one for me anyway. I hope it's going to be interesting for you. We're going to look at the Yamaha C-5000 Pure Audio Performance. It's a preamp. So this is what goes with the main amp that I did a walkthrough on the other week. And I thought it would be interesting. So that amplifier is around about £5,000. I thought, yeah, that's a lot of money, but it's beautifully made. But let's have a look at the preamp. But this preamp is £8,900 in the UK. So it's a lot of money. And we put that with the other one, so you're going to get 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and a half, nearly £14,000 for an amplifier and preamplifier. Anyway, it must be good, so let's have a look. What I'll do is I'll walk you through this, because this has got the ability to have, just bear with me, I will click on there, and I will do a fade on there. So this is the actual thing. What I think I might do is I'll see if I can bring up me again by doing a little bit of fiddling here, as I'm doing it live, so to speak. So I'm going to stick that myself there. No, I'm going to stick myself there, and I'm going to fade to here. So this is now me looking at it with you. Whoa, there we go. And well, I mean, it said C-5000 on there, you know that. So it's not a problem really. Anyway, let's have a look at what it's got to say. So I'm going to scroll down here and we can see what we can see. It says C-5000 overview for the ultimate in sound. Product information, C-5000. Diapason hi-fi door, which is presumed to... So it says, in pursuit of the intangible musical quality that breathes life into high-fidelity audio, the world's largest sound company presents the C-5000 preamplifier from the concept stage to the home. Yamaha has drawn on its vast musical history to create an instrument capable of faithfully reproducing every nuance and emotion in the performance. Well, I don't doubt that. Don't doubt that for a minute. And it says we can have a click on there, and we can see a picture exactly the same size. Oh, isn't that actually, that's rather nice. That is rather nice. I like that. Let's get it so that I'm not obscuring it. Can I do that? Yes, I can. Here we go. And it's got on there most of what you'd expect to find. So you've got the on-off, standby on-off phones, trim. So that's the volume control on the headphones. Gain is basically the volume. So you can balance all your inputs. I would guess output off, all, balance, line 1, line 2, phono, there we go, phono, and input. So then you got balanced inputs 1 and 2. That doesn't mean, that means they're XLR connectors, not you're trying to balance. Line 1 and line 2, they're probably RCAs. I don't know. We'll have a look when we get round to the back of it, I guess. Tuner, phono, balanced input, and phono, normal input. So here we've got phono, you've got your different type of cartridges. Presumably, if you're spending £8,500 on a preamp, you're going to spend a reasonable amount of money on your cartridge. So they are being specific. So you've got moving magnet and moving coil. Obviously, moving coil are a lot more expensive, and some people say better. Let's have a look over here. Volume control, audio mute, which is always useful. Subsonic filter. That's your rumble filter, I would guess. And then you got their external direct, which probably means it turns off your tone controls. Now this is audiophile type equipment, but it does have balance, treble and bass, which is what you really need. Anybody who tells you that an audiophile doesn't need that means that they're listening to one level of music, one type of music set up once, and they never want to change anything, which is not music loving. It's setting themselves into a rut. Doesn't do any harm to have a knob and not use it. It just does a problem if you haven't got the knob in the first place. So let's have a look at what it says here. We've got colours and finishes. Any of this work? Oh, it's up where I was again. Here we go. Right, so that's nice. Let's see what this one does. I'll bring that down. All right, it's the back end. All right, let's have a look at the back end, because this is the one that's going to be interesting to us. Tuner, CD, line in and out, and then so these are your XLR inputs. So that's your 3-pin. That's called your balanced inputs. So then you got, this must be a phono inputs. Rather posh looking RCA jacks, aren't they? This is your trigger thing. Now this is interesting. This is what I spoke about on the other video. This is where you plug that into the main amp, and you only have to switch one of them on, and it knows what it's doing. So that's how that works. Okay, so that's rather nice. I like the finish on these things. If you're paying that sort of money, you should have good finish. But yeah, Yamaha. I think it's true to say, when you buy a Yamaha product, be it a motorcycle or an amplifier, you get what you're paying for. By and large, I've never had a cheap finish Yamaha that you can't. You get some products and you think that's cheap and nasty. Well, I've never seen a cheap and nasty Yamaha. It may not be the most expensive thing in the world, and there may be ones that are better than it, but you'll be paying more money for it. Well, that's been my experience. I've had 5 Yamaha motorcycles, ranges from top of the end to whatever, and I've dealt with Yamaha audio equipment, but I've never actually owned any. I've only ever been involved in supplying and or servicing it. But it does mean that I do have an insight into it. Perfectly balanced, together with the GT5000 turntable and the M5000 power amplifier, Yamaha delivers an end-to-end balanced signal chain across its flagship models for premier performance. Now, those speakers look nice. The turntable looks very turntabley. You can't tell from this picture whether it's a posh turntable or a cheap turntable that's made to look posh, because that's what these sort of pictures do. However, looking down here, this is where you start to see some effort put into it. Now, I don't think people understand in modern days how much things like this cost. And if you saw my video on the fuse in the Dacia, you'd know my views on things like connections. So it says floating and balanced preamplifier. The C-5000 features fully balanced and discrete circuit transmission across all stages of the signal path and tone defeat. Or the signal path at. Let's read that again. The C-5000 features fully balanced and discrete circuit transmission across all stages of the signal path and at tone defeat. The patented floating design is adopted across the phono EQ, input amp and line amp stages, removing the influence of ground noise from the signal. Now that is not audio foolery, as in an audiophile that's an idiot. That's actually proper physics. There are things you can do. Whether the improvements are worth it is another question, but there are things you can do that other people don't do, and it will have a beneficial effect. Looking at the layout of this thing, I wish that picture was just didn't have the white bit across it. But anyway, look at this. I don't know about you, but I think that does look beautiful. I've always loved electronics. I used to look in the back of TVs. Somebody had a new video recorder. I wanted to take the top off it. I was one of those kids. And well, actually, I wasn't a kid when the video recorders came out. I was an engineer, but I still wanted to get the lid off it. The only difference was I knew what I was doing then. Symmetrical folding book circuit design. The folding book design for the preamplifier PCB mirrors the left and right signal paths for precise matching and layout. With each channel physically identical, that's good. The C-5000 is capable of the most accurate reproduction of audio, which is both wide and deep. Further, the ground loop is minimized when other components are connected. Yeah, ground loops are a thing that are a real pain, and you can buy a really good amplifier and still have ground problems. And sometimes you have to take wires off, sometimes you have to put wires on. Dual toroidal transformers, adopting independent dual. These words are very, very difficult. They didn't teach us these at school. They did at college, but not at school. Right, okay. Dual toroidal transformers. Adopting independent dual toroidal transformers for the left and right channels delivers optimal separation and therefore produces a soundstage which is faithful to the original source. Lower magnetic leakage lowers adverse impact on the audio signal. Following detailed research based on trial listening, the power transformer was enclosed in a copper-clad case to suppress magnetic flux and vibration. This also assists in minimising the influence of flux in the phono circuit. This realises a gentle, calm and even spacious sound due to enhanced reproduction of detailed signals. Now you see, you can see they're after the audiophile. Obviously it's a very expensive amp. But they're after the audiophile by putting in things like this releases a gentle, calm and even spacious sound due to enhanced reproduction of detailed signals. Gentle and calm. No, what I read here is a little bit of snake oil at the bottom, as in, you know, they're speaking the speak, walk the walk, as they say. But is there any value in sticking a transformer within a copper shield? Yes, there is. Is it better than having a magnetic type shield like a tin box? Yes, there is. This is going to be electrically inductive, not magnetically inductive, because copper's a non-ferrous metal. So that's going to be good from that point of view. Low impedance design. By copper plating the chassis to minimise the influence of voltage on the circuit, the C-5000 is capable of expressing the subtlest nuances as well as powerful bass. Additionally, thick screw type wires are utilised to reduce the impedance of the power supply and maximise the transmission of musical information. Right, what they're saying there is, quite simply, that everything's connected with really good connections that are not going to go oxidisy and give you problems. Again, referring to my Dacia thing, it's a normal thing. If you've got a fuse or any connection and you just shove it into, well, here's a good example for you. An RCA plug, I believe that's what you call it. We used to call them phono plugs, and RCA sockets. When those get tarnished, and that's plugged in there, and they will get tarnished even though it's plugged in, they will increase in resistance. Resistance and impedance are the same thing. People like to try to be sort of posh and try and use different words to mean the same thing, but actually resistance and impedance in this instance is the same thing. So it will go HR or HI if you want, and that will then give you, that's why you get gold connections, and that will give you a slight resistance. If you're pulling current through a resistance, that means you get a voltage across it. If you get voltage across it, then you get a drop the other side. And if you get a drop the other side, you've got yourself a wobble. And a wobble you don't want on sound. That's it in a nutshell. So that's what they're trying to say. I believe what they're trying to say, and I believe it will make a difference. I just have a problem with the price, but that's because I don't earn that much, unless you guys make this video go viral, in which case, yeah, maybe I can get one. Or if Yamaha want to give me one, I will do a proper review on it. The C-5000 was designed from the ground up to deliver the ultimate in listening experiences, down to its aesthetic and even its touch. The knobs and lever switches feature original designs to communicate both innovation and craftsmanship. The volume knob is both rigid and precise, employing ball bearings and precision-cut aluminium to achieve its touch, whilst the lever switches have also been refined for enhanced operation. So what they're saying is they've used expensive knobs and switches, and normally you can tell because they will feel nice. And yeah, well, I would expect them to, but you know, it's nice that they did. Custom designed feet. Every aspect of the C-5000 was carefully considered when designing this flagship model. Its construction exudes master craftsmanship and reflects an obsession with achieving the highest levels of performance. The feet are no exception. Hey, like the M5000, the custom heavy-duty brass feet function either as fully supported spikes or with a scratch guard base for use on delicate surfaces, which means that little bit of felt on the bottom, I guess. I don't particularly see, I mean, it's nice that it matches the power amp. I don't particularly see that as being a particularly major feature, for the simple reason that your power amp, and these are solid state and should be, if they're bolted together correctly, immune to vibration. And if you've got it loud enough that it's not, well, more more power to your elbow, I guess. But anyway, let's have a look now at the specifications. I do love going through specs. Audio specs. Input terminals, RCA, 6 of them. And trigger in, and 4 balance inputs and 1 remote input. Okay, so that's pretty comprehensive. Output terminals, RCA 3, line out, 2 line out, 1 line, line 1 and a line 2. Balance, yeah, I'll get this right eventually. Right, we've got 1 remote out, we've got a trigger out, and we've got a balanced output, which is to feed your balanced input on the other amplifier, because you only need basically, well, 3 wires on a balanced thing, but you only need 1 connection to the amplifier, because this is doing all of the difficult job. All the other things doing is driving the speakers. Line 2, line 1, so that's so you can feed other devices, and 2 lines out as well. So you know you can connect it to other things. Rated output voltage. Input 200 millivolts, 20 to 20.01 total harmonic distortion. Balanced bypass 2 volts RMS, 150 ohms. That's fairly low. That is low impedance. 1 volt RMS, 150 ohm. Line 1, 150 ohms. It's all very low impedance, except for the record out, which is 200 millivolts into 1.2 kilo ohms. So that's a fairly high impedance compared to the rest. Now that doesn't mean that you can't use it on a high impedance input. It just means that it can take a low impedance input. This thing, if it was a truck, it could pull out. If it was a car, it could pull out tree trunks. Maximum output voltage with very good THD, 6 millivolts RMS, which is 6 volts RMS, which is pretty high. So you're going to get a full drive from there. You could actually need to be careful on some things, but it does mean that if you've got a very quiet signal in, because it's a good amplifier, you can turn it up and you would get the equivalent of 6 volts out. But because you're only putting 3 volt, half of it in, you're only going to get half of it out. So it means it's got, well, so you've got from there to there is normal, there you're pushing it a bit, and there you're overdriving. It means you can overdrive it. It's a good thing. But if it's distorting when you're turning it up that far, well, that's when you start worrying, because you start damaging stuff if you're not careful. Input sensitivity, balance line input 1 volt, balance 200 millivolts, 52k. See, high impedance inputs. Line, let's see, 47k is normal, but the output's nice low impedance, so you're not going to get problems with voltage drop and stuff. Yeah, okay, so we're looking at 100 ohms and whatever else. Phono MC 300 ohms, 100 microvolts, 300 ohms. MC moving coil 100 ohms. Yeah. MC, where's the MM? Oh, I can't. Oh, MM. Right, unbalanced, 2.5 millivolts RMS, 52k, which is 47k. Is the same thing. So yeah, it's perfectly good. Nothing wrong with that at all. Maximum input signal voltage. Yeah, okay, so you can drive it fairly hard, and you can go 50% up. Well, 2.8 volts for what should be a 2 volt input. So yeah, just under. What's that? That's not 50%. That's about 40% up. Freeze response. Low 22k ohm, balance line, no, right, so 100 hertz, 100 kilohertz, plus and minus, plus 0, minus 3 dB, wow, and the same on there, wow. Total harmonic distortion plus noise. Now this means, because very often you get, as distortion occurs, you actually get not only the distortion to the signal, you also get a noise effect. It's a bit like the ringing in your ears. Anyway, so that says it's line to out, so 2020, oh look at that, 0.02, nothing basically, 0.01, nothing. Channel separation, right, 1 kiloohm terminated, 1 kilohertz to 10 kilohertz, 110 dB or higher, 80 dB or higher if you're going for the balanced, and it's as good as a CD. Actually, you've got to use 98 dB is your normal CD thing. It's as good as a CD. If you can hear, if you can hear this the other channel when you're listening to one that's on silent, at that sort of thing, 110 dB. For God's sake, don't put the sound on, because you'll go deaf, as your ears will bleed, and the everything in the room will probably disintegrate. Function separation, right? Okay. So 110 dB or higher, 75 dB or higher. So you're not going to get bleed through from your other functions. If you don't put a signal in, you're not going to get a signal out. So if you've got two inputs running at the same time, you're looking at between 110 dB to 80 dB as being, you're not going to hear it. And if you are, you've done something else wrong. Residual noise, 3 microvolts on a balanced line output. Well, tone controls, bass cut 30 hertz plus minus dB, 20 hertz not plus minus dB. So well, subtle, 9 dB, 10 dB is normal. So that's all right. Headphone jack rated output power, 35 milliwatts and 35 milliwatts CD, etc. So it's good. Deviations from RIAA, look at that, plus or minus 0.5 dB, which means not a lot at all. Subsonic filter, 15 hertz, which, as I said to you, is subsonic, so that's your rumble filter. It's 3 dB. Remembering that 3 dB means half. So it's going to cut it down by half. Power consumption 60 watts, which is well, it's not low, it's not high. Power consumption on standby is 0.2 watts, which is nice and low. Power management auto power standby has got it, and it is in size. It's a 435 by 142 by 451 millimeters, which is, in old language, 17 1/8 of an inch by 5 5/8 of an inch and 17 3/4 of an inch, which indicates that it was designed metrically, and they've just measured it to find out what it is when it's imperial. Now this is the important thing here. Look, weight 19.1 kilograms or 42.11 pounds. Now that gives you an indication that it is heavy. It is heavy. So it's going to be, it's going to be a good thing, purely on the basis that there's a lot of metal in it. Let's have a quick look at the manual. So let's have a look at the owner's manual. See if I can open that up. C-5000, bloody blah. Right, and maintenance, part names and functions. See if we can get that a bit bigger. That's that one, I think. And yeah, okay, so switches, dimmed switches, phono jacks. It all looks fairly standard. Phono input trim selector, gain switch output selector. Specified switch output jack will output signals as follows. Use the selector of multiple power amplifiers are connected. So you can use this as a main switching point for several amplifiers. Front panel, bass control, plus. See, now here they're saying plus or minus 10 dB in 0.5 dB steps. And the center position produces a flat response. So, the specifications were 9 and a bit or whatever, but they're saying it's 10 because it effectively is. Subsonic switch, volume control. Just volume control, this setting will not affect the output levels of the line outs. They're recording jacks, as I already indicated. There's your rear panel. Phono jacks, so they are RCA and XLR type jacks. If the input selector is set to phono, the signals at the RCA phono jacks will be the input source. If the input selector is set to phono balance, the signal will. Your amplifier comes with shorting plugs installed on each RCA phono input jack. If you are planning to get an external component, please remove them. It makes sense. So they've got shorting plugs on there just so that there is no risk of, well, mostly RF, but a certain amount of magnetic induction could also happen. Right, so attenuators, RCA jack phase selector. Now this is selects the hot position of the XLR type. With XLR, because you've got three wires, that's three, 1, 2, 3. You can get the problem that people don't agree on which is what, so you have to switch the phase occasionally. Rear panel, yeah, that looks like a rear panel. All the jacks are standard. And has it got digital in? I don't think it has. CD jacks. CD jacks. It says CD. No, it's not optical. So you're going to get yourself a DAC or something because you've got that sort of money. Balanced and unbalanced connections. This is where it's explaining about the different wires, which is okay, and talking about it there again, hot, cold, and all the rest of it. And it comes with a remote control, which looks like a reasonable remote control. CD key turns power on the Yamaha CD player. Right, okay, so you can get good results with their CD players. Operating remote control. You've got a 30-degree angle either side, so that's reasonable. Connections, how to connect it up. Now this you might find of interest because it's telling you about turntables and things, but it's basically plug it in the one that's labelled. I can't keep it simpler than that, and yeah, it will work and feed out the output to the power amplifier. Oh boy, would I like one of them. I would, genuinely, I would like one of those. So if you've got one that you don't need and you want to send it to somebody, a deserving cause or a deserving case, then I'll have it. But I'm not paying that sort of money for anything. I can't afford it, be honest. So AV amplifier, etc., preamp, and so it's talking there about all the different connections. So it's nice and variable. It's more than just a phono preamp. It is a proper switching centre, and you can operate it from another room, etc. This is where the remote inputs come from. Of course, these are all optional accessories, and you go from there. And then it's talking about switching it on, adjusting things. It is a very comprehensive manual, but then I would expect it because it's Yamaha reference materials. Here we go. And so there's your specifications again, written in a slightly different way. And yeah, don't know about you, but I think that's rather nice. Now this is good. They're telling you what's doing. The audio characteristics. Oh, you can't get much better than that. Look at that. Plus 10 dB, doesn't quite reach there. Minus 10 dB, doesn't quite reach. Well, it does because it drops off, but that's normal. Harmonic distortion. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It is almost nothing. And that's on phono. I've said this before, though. If you go past a certain point, it goes, and you don't want that to be happening. So never overdrive these things. Look at that. Frequency response of subsonic filter. On or through. It just pulls down the rumble. That's the bearing rumble, which you may not even realise you got. But to be honest, if you turn this filter on, you're going to lose a little bit. Hang on. It's a big cut there, but at 10 hertz, well, 15 hertz approximately, you're only 5 dB down. So it's not a lot of difference in that respect. It's almost worth just switching it on just because you can. You're not going to lose anything away with bass because you're talking about 20 hertz. You're only talking about 1 dB, minus 1 dB, and at 50 hertz, which of course is main frequency in the UK, it's got no effect, and it's flat across there. Look at that. That's absolutely flat across there and down to there. You can't get any better than that, really, as far as a flat response is concerned. Volume curve. So this is selecting your different things. It looks nice and linear. Troubleshooting, well, we don't need to do that because it's got a 3-year or 5-year guarantee. And yeah, then we go into other languages, which I'd love to show you, but because I am an English-based English language based channel, I can't deal with the other things because I just make a fool of myself, and I don't mind making a fool of myself. I just don't want to be foolish and make a fool of myself. So anyway, that's it. I think it would be true to say that it is a very nice piece of kit. Let me just get to the top of the page and say, right, okay, it is a nice piece of kit. I would like one, yes, please. Will I ever get one? No. I don't have that sort of money, but I'd love to. I would love to. C-5000. I just want to go back and have a look at that board there. Oh, look at that. That is pure art and science. And as you can see, you've got things on one side and you've got things on the other side. They have literally segregated it. And 110 dB within the same box. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Anyway, that's it. Maybe if you've got something from this you'd like to subscribe, and I'll do some more of these things if people want me to. But subscribe and pass the video around, and watch some of my other videos. You might find some of them interesting, or you might just find them a laugh. It doesn't really matter, but you will learn something. You will learn something, because I do research this stuff. And yeah, anyway, I'm looking at the screen now, and I'm going to say bye bye. Thank you very much. See you again.